Thank you for tuning in for this Arrastra preview. So what we're looking at is a couple of the progression points from the ROC up to the Prospector, then the Mole, and then the Orion. And the Arrastra has finally been revealed. It is no longer a rumor, and it will be on RSI Day, guaranteed, that it is the large mining vessel sitting between the Mole and the much larger Orion. Now, the Arrastra here pictured is a very interesting ship because of the remote tractor beams and the positioning of the crew that run those tractor beams. You can see the two at the front, and they can move up and down the side of the ship towards the front. And then there's one mining tractor beam you'll see on top that is able to mine from the top, and then it can transit through the ship and go to the bottom of the ship. So the idea was that people would prefer to not have to tell the pilot to constantly make micro maneuvers when they are near the rocks. When you're on the money, you don't want to have to keep changing locations. Inside, you can see the crew complement has also vehicle bay next to where the crew have their mess and their quarters. And that vehicle bay sat two ROCs in this image. We'll test it to see if it can fit one large ship. Additionally, they have ore bays that can hold a ton of quite a lot of ore. And this is them detailing again that the mining laser that can go through the ship from the top to the bottom. I'm very excited to see that there is this enabling of the crew, and you can see that the crew all sit together at the front of the bridge. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I think not only am I okay with that, I welcome it. Here's a quad laser on the side of the ship, and there's two of those, and they have pretty good range. I would assume that they extend out of the ship a little bit to give it even better line of sight. But this is not a pure combat vessel in any way, shape, or form. It's really meant to mine, and that's meant to buy it some time so its escorts can catch up, or some friendlies can come and help it out. This ship is a rather large ship. It is a large class vessel. It will remember that is impacting where it can land, and also remember that it also impacts its operating costs, its fuel usage when it goes into Atmo. They talk about dragging around two ROCs with this thing, and you can mine on the surface, like in this part of the video. However, you would probably not find that efficient. There's plenty of folks who drive around a Freelancer Max, or another even better example would be a Connie Taurus, would be an excellent use case, especially if you want to do multiple ROCs and still carry a little bit of cargo. But this thing does have the ore hold to enable those vehicles to keep going long periods of time. So it's an interesting ship. I think it really stresses and enables people to look at what is important and what is not. When you go up to the Orion, you have to think about this is a massive mining platform only meant for space operations, whereas this thing, the Arrastra, can go planet side and hang out there. I could see an Arrastra being supported at an outpost much easier than trying to find a place to dock in Orion or take it somewhere else or do something in and out of a target location. Because I wouldn't want to take the Orion anywhere but where mining belts spawn. Where the belts are is where I want this thing 5 feet from. And then what you do is you would want hull Ds or even hull Es taking the ore that was turned into minerals and going to sell them off somewhere else, or taking them to be refined and then go somewhere else. It's a massive operation. Arrastra, I don't see it as a multi-ship operation other than maybe an escort vessel to carry it around. If you're in a small organization and you can get 2 to 3 people that want to mine, and you have that one guy who just won't mine and he doesn't want to pilot the Arrastra, I could see him bringing along an F8C or something like that to kind of help just kind of keep the peace if the server's a little hot where you're at. Remember, our servers are currently at like 100 population, and that will go up and up and up over time. So the Arrastra is going to be in a crowded space. And I would hesitate to say, but I do want to mention it, that we don't know exactly how many good rocks are going to be out there. As scanning gets better and better, this ship needs to have a certain level of quality of rock to have that big old crew feel like they're really impactful and feel like they're really spending their time appropriately. And also the owner of the ship has to start paying maintenance costs, fuel costs, repair costs when it gets bumps into a rock or gets shot at. So and yeah, if there is an escort, he's going to want something. It has the same issue the mole always had, is that once you start going and expanding beyond just one person, or maybe one person plus one of their buddies once in a while wants to mine, and you start getting into these larger ships, where do they really sit at that point? I would say that if you're in an org or a group of friends who just enjoys all parts of Star Citizen and you're looking to do mining operations, or maybe you're more interested in creating stuff to haul, this would be an interesting ship, even if in those cases. It would be worth your time to do it just so you have something to create and take to market. And in the future, construction elements. It will be worth making the ore and then turning them into minerals and then moving them to a place to build would be very interesting. So I gotta say that it would be very interesting if sorry, this is great, but it would be very interesting if the Arrastra kind of finds a place. And to me, it kind of is the new mole. If you already have a mole, this is the CCU. This is an easy CCU depending on price. Right now, the mole is sitting at 315 standalone, 275 Warbond last time it was up. And I think that the mole would be a great CCU if this thing was sitting in the 3s or 4s. Dare I say it? I can dream. I would also add that I don't think it's going to go above 500 USD, because plain and simple, that would mean that a lot of whole Cs would suddenly be CCU'd over to this thing. You have a lot of people sitting on a ton of whole C value from the large price bump recently, and those this year recent whole Cs are going to suddenly become Arrastras if this thing is sitting at like 525 to 575 or somewhere in there. So we may get lucky. We may see a slightly lower introductory concept price or flyable price. So if the rumors are to be believed, this ship is pretty far along. And based on the video we've seen, the ship is pretty far along. And based on the fact that the RSI people are constantly developing, the teams that are working on RSI are at full speed ahead on developing Polaris. They're developing the Galaxy and then the Perseus as the next 3 major ships. It would not be a coincidence if, yes, it is an industrial ship, but it is an RSI ship and has a lot of the new design language. You heard the discussion if you watch this video on the official channel. They mention a lot of times the design language, aggressive styling. We want to embolden the industrial side too. But that also means that there's a lot of RSI assets that are suddenly floating around, like that crew quarters table, like those areas where the ramps are and the garage door and everything, like the quad laser on the side of the ship, the quad turret. It'd be interesting to see exactly what to do. One other thing, just a closing thought. I welcome ships like this where all the crew can hang out together and sit on the cockpit area, the bridge, because on a combined bridge like that for multi-crew, plain and simple, I've found a lot of people that are not normally comfortable with larger ships are extraordinarily comfortable with a combined bridge. They just don't know what they're sitting in. So, for example, in the Connies, people love the Connies when they have a nice big window. They can see their friends. They're just hanging out. And they don't realize it, but they're part of the crew. When you start putting people away, like in the Mole, where they have to go climb chutes and ladders and go off into this tiny little confined space, and they're hearing these loud clunking noises, and they're physically separating from the ship in this compressed turret, they start wondering what the heck's going on. And I think that's part of this element. If this thing feels less friction, like, oh, I can just climb on your ship and hang out, and oh yeah, I can mine. Oh, I can make some money doing this. I can see a lot of people feeling this ship be more accessible for groups. So just a thought in the back of my mind. Your group may be different. That's kind of why I was hesitating to mention this, but I felt that I have some space to talk about it. I have some runway here, so yeah. I think the Arrastra at the right price would be the ship we need right now for non-combat needs. Non-combat needs. Additionally, I like that it has some logistics capacity, not combat logistics, but some logistics capacity with that garage, and I welcome that. I hope more ships have that, and it's not so big and so ridiculous that it makes the ship huge and makes it something that's difficult to work with. Maybe even we can fit a large ship, single large vehicle in there, like a Spartan or a Cent. Maybe we'll test it. I'm not hopeful because of the roof, the height, but that is just a preview for my upcoming video. If this thing's flyable in the next couple days, I'll be shoving a lot of vehicles into it and actually trying to test it and seeing if it can make any money. And that'll be what I'm interested in. Yeah. So happy rest of your IE. Consider your options carefully. Discuss them with your org mates and friends that you tend to fly with a lot, because at the end of the day, if you're by yourself in this thing, it's not going to be that ideal. Hopping from that pilot seat over to a mining laser seat and then just running a single laser on this thing will not be that as fun as you think, especially once we start talking about maintenance cost. Having to go fix a relay at the back of the ship that popped or something like that, or having to defend it. Just some food for thought. Take care, everyone. Okay. Is the coast clear? For those who celebrate Thanksgiving, thank you for being around. I give thanks. I make these videos as much for you as I do myself anymore. And I want to thank you all. Even those who don't celebrate it, I hope you feel good energy. I hope you feel the holiday season is really hitting you well. And I hope you yourself and your families are doing well. Just wanted to say that. Yeah, I know it's cringe. Bye.